Do you want to know the difference between a Lethrinus miniatus and a Lethrinus nebulosus? Even if you don't, the fish in this video are really cool looking, so stick around. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is danielmannyt. Recently, I made a video about UK fish species and I got a ton of comments saying, can you do this for Australia? Will you do this for Australia? Please do this for Australia. Unfortunately, Australia has around 4,000 species of fish, so it would take me till the day I die to cover everything in a video like that. But I thought I could probably focus on some spearfishing related species that you would find in Australia. The species of fish we're going to be looking at today are the red-throat emperor, Lethrinus miniatus, the Grassy emperor, Lethrinus laticaudis, and Lethrinus nebulosus, the Spangled Emperor. All three are great targets for spearfishers because they look good, they are fun to hunt, and above all, they taste good. We're going to start with the smallest of these three, that is the red-throat emperor. They can be found in the Ryukyu Islands, Eastern Philippines, Indonesia, New Caledonia, and of course Australia. On the east coast you get them all the way down to Sydney, but more commonly from Coffs Harbour north. The Barrier Reef is littered with them as well. On the west coast you can find them from around Geraldton and north. The Australian record is 4.75 kilograms by Andrew Sprenger. In my opinion, these are the easiest of all the emperors to identify. They are strikingly marked with crimson red on the dorsal fin and the base of the pectoral fin. The head is often a rusty orange colour, and of course the inside of their mouth is the same crimson red, which is where they get their common name from, red-throat emperor. But the thing about the inside red throat is the other emperors have that as well, so I guess it's just the red throats have turbo red throat? Compared to the Grassy and Spangled Emperors, the red-throat emperors are much more elongated around the snout. In my opinion, they're also the most tasty of the three, and I would never pass the opportunity up to spear one. Red-throat emperors tend to be found on more substantial reef and coral than the Grassies and Spangled Emperors. Sometimes they try and camouflage into their environment and they can sit very still, often to their demise. This dive is also a really great hunt from Tim McDonald, however, it was tax time. Like a lot of fish species, when they are hunting and fired up, they can rapidly change colors, and you can see this one here in full-blown hunting mode. It's very dark with blotches all over it. While red-throats do show up for breeding, you are much more likely to see them in 2s or 3s. Red-throats feed on crustaceans, mollusks, and fish, so they can often be seen on the edge of reefs patrolling, looking for prey. The Grassy Emperor, Lethrinus laticaudis, can be found throughout the Western Pacific, southern Indonesia, northern Australia, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands. In Australia, you don't get too many south of Brisbane on the east coast, and on the west coast, you don't get too many south of Shark Bay. The Australian record is 6.1 kilograms shot by Brendan Wally, but if you're talking everyday fish, anything over about 2.5 kilos is a really good size for a Grassy Emperor. As I mentioned, Grassy Emperors also have red on the inside of their mouths, but lack any red markings on the dorsal fins and the pectoral fin base. They have thin electric blue lines permeating from around the eye, which can filter out into small blue dots along the cheek. People will often confuse the Grassy Emperors with Spangled Emperors. However, the Grassies don't have a blue dot in the middle of the scale like the Spangled Emperors do, but more on that when we get to the Spangled Emperor section. The tail of a Grassy Emperor also lacks any yellow coloring, and it's more of an orange hue just on the edge of the tail. The Grassies can be quite easy to spear if you find them on country that they haven't seen divers before. The easiest way to tell them underwater from the other emperors, I find, is they have a very distinct white chin. Now, the Spangled Emperor does have white under its chin, but it doesn't stand out nearly as much as this Grassy Emperor here. Similar to the red throats, a little bit of scratching and in they come. Finally, the Spangled Emperor, Lethrinus nebulosus. This is the largest of the three species, and they can grow in excess of 10 kilograms. The Spangled Emperor is vastly more widespread in distribution than the former two species, ranging from Indonesia, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, Eastern Africa, to southern Japan, Samoa, and of course, Australia. There are certain marine reserves in Sydney that have a few resident Spangled Emperor. However, if you want to target them as a spearfisher, your best bet is to look north of Tweed Heads on the east coast, and on the west coast, north of Perth. The Australian record for this species is 8.9 kilograms shot by A. McNeil. Now, anything really over about 6 or 7 kilograms is a big Spangled Emperor, and they can be quite difficult to get close to at that size. You will hear a lot of people saying that Spangled Emperor are a terrible fish to eat. That's not quite true. The taste remains the same in my experience whether you shoot a 2 kilogram fish or a 7 kilogram fish. What does change is the texture of the fish. After about 4 kilograms in size, they tend to get very chewy no matter how you cook them, which is great if you want to cook a curry or fish cakes, but if you just want to pan fry it with crumbs or something like that, it's not going to be so great. So just pick your recipe for the size of the fish that you capture. Spangled Emperor are easily identified by their beautiful yellow hues over the entire body. The scales on the body have a blue spot in the middle which forms stripes down the flank of the fish, which is lacking in the Grassy Emperor. These blue spots are more prominent above the lateral line. They also have blue bars that extend down the cheeks and face of the fish, while they lack those tiny little blue lines around the eyes like the Grassy Emperor has. That's an easy way to tell them apart. Spangled Emperor, no little blue lines. Spangled Emperor can be found in reef lagoons, sand edges, broken rock, and of course, coral reef. I have, however, had the unusual experience of diving on a rock in about 30 meters of water, and on the way to the bottom, I see some fish out of the corner of my eye, about 15 meters off the bottom, and it is big Spangled Emperor just milling about, doing nothing. I would say the Spangled Emperor is the hardest of the three species to spear. However, the same old tricks work. Throw some sand up and they will come in, usually. On this dive, I can see a shoal of them off in the distance, and I throw some sand up, but they don't come quite close enough, and as the sand settles, I see a larger fish come a bit too close. I extend out with my homemade 120, and it was a bit further away than I anticipated. That's why the shot was a little bit low, but very secure on this fish. Spangled Emperor are not shy to shoal up with other species of fish, and when they're in a big mix like this, they can be a little easier to spear. This mix of trevallies provided some cover for me on a bomb dive here. Shooting down on emperors is always very challenging because they have a very thin profile when looking down on them. Does that trevally vortex remind anyone out there of a tractor beam out of Star Wars? Like, Spangled Emperor, now in my kitchen? In coral reef lagoons, you can get hundreds of these fish shoaling up together. However, in this instance, there was only a handful of fish. Definitely not proud of that shot in the middle of the fish there. The water was very clean, and I thought the fish were much smaller than they actually were. That thing was just over 4 kilograms, and it was a long shot. Not ideal to shoot it right in the middle, but sometimes that's where the spear lands. A big thanks to Tim McDonald, Josh Ball, and Bryson Sheehy for allowing me to use some of their footage to make this video. Just on a side channel related note, a lot of you guys have been asking me, when am I going to get out diving, get some content that's overseas or fresh stuff that's not sitting in my flat? The truth is, I haven't been legally allowed to dive since November here with the restrictions that I'm under in the UK, and it's looking like I might be able to go spearfishing, fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan with the vaccine rollout and all that sort of crap, on the 29th of March. After then, the videos will be coming back, and as soon as I can travel overseas, Spain, Italy, Greece, Norway, the Azores, I will be there with my camera, taking you guys with me. That's a wrap on this one. If you enjoyed it or you learned something, give it a thumbs up. It actually makes a difference. Subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you on the next one. There's no clapper. I just didn't know how to end the video, so I thought, clapper. I haven't done that one before. See you on the next one.